In today's video, I want to talk about what's the best way to answer the interview question, describe your leadership style. So without further ado, let's get started. Now, the first thing you need to understand is when they're asking you this question, it's most likely you're applying for something senior role and above, because it's only at those levels where they start really wanting to understand what kind of leader you are, because you are leading other people in that team, whether they're ICs or whether you're in management. These are all pieces that start being factored in, especially when you hit a certain point in your career. Now, the reason why they're asking you this is because they want to understand whether there is alignment with the culture that they already have at hand. Do you lean autocratic? Are you more laissez-faire? Are you very democratic? Or are you the empathetic, coaching, transformational leadership style? And they really want to understand, what are you like, and are you going to be a fit for the culture of the team? And this would fundamentally be a make or break question, especially if you're applying for leadership roles. And therefore, it's very important to do your research beforehand to get an understanding of what the company culture is like. So one thing that you can do is look at the company's website or the company's LinkedIn to get a sense of what their culture is like. Another thing that you can do is to speak with the hiring manager and just straight up ask, hey, what's your leadership style like? And typically, if the hiring manager gives a breakdown of what their leadership style is like, you probably want something that is similar or not too far off, or something that's more complementary to that style. By doing the research beforehand, you are going to increase the chances of you being a good match for this team. One thing you definitely want to be careful of is avoiding the common pitfall of being generic, right? And what I mean by that is just being visionaries. Oh yeah, I'm this kind of leader, I'm that kind of leader, and not giving practical examples and not explaining how you've executed this type of leadership in the past. So you definitely don't want to just glaze over this topic and give the usual platitudes. You want to give concrete examples of how you demonstrated leadership. And therefore, the second thing you need to do is to do a self-assessment. How have you led in the past? What do you know about leadership? And you can think about what you've done at work, what you've done outside of work. There's the formal leadership roles, and there's also the informal ones, right? So formal leadership roles would be if you were ever a manager or a team lead. Those would be official seats where you can sit in and you basically are the leader. Now, there are also very informal ones where you show influence and you change culture, but you don't necessarily have a full-on manager and direct report relationship with other people around you. But like I mentioned, there's formal and informal leadership. And the one that I would recommend you to really lean into is the informal one. Especially if you haven't had formal leadership experience before, you can definitely lean into the informal one, because at the end of the day, if you're able to informally do it, it's very likely that once you get the formal leadership role, you can continue exerting this type of influence. And that's the type of things that people are looking for. Everyone can be a leader. You don't necessarily have to wear a leader hat to be a leader. By looking at your past examples, you can then therefore come up with several key words that people can really latch onto. And when you say these keywords, these are things that people have seen some model or another in the past, and therefore they're able to reference it quite easily. You can say you're autocratic, not necessarily the best thing to be in the West right now. You can say you're laissez-faire, more hands-off. That's good and bad. You can say you're democratic, but sometimes democratic isn't always the best way to do things in a company. Or you can say you're transformational, coaching, you have servant leadership. There are a ton of keywords that you can use, because the next thing you need to do, which is the third point in this video, is you need to craft your response with concrete examples. And what you want to do is structure your answer in the following way. First, you want to give that one key word that describes your leadership style, and it's kind of like a summation of your overall philosophy. However, while you're giving this answer, you also want to make sure you maintain some degree of flexibility. One thing that I like to talk about is situational leadership. Sometimes you need to be autocratic. Sometimes you need to be transformational, more empathetic, more coaching. Sometimes you got to be laissez-faire, right? And delegate to those who are capable. There are many different situations, but we all lean one way or another. So you definitely want to explain that your primary leadership style is this. But you also want to explain that you've demonstrated other forms of leadership in the past, but this is your primary mode, but you can switch as needed, because leaders are flexible and leaders are adaptable. And therefore, you want to give specific examples of how you've led in a certain way. And so, for example, if you have a primary method of leading, you want to give a STAR example of that, right? STAR, situation, task, action, and result. And I've talked about it in a previous video of mine, so definitely check it out in the cards above. But Give a star example of your primary method. And after giving the primary one, you can say, I also have examples from other forms of leadership that I've used in the past. There's not enough time for me to dig into all of them, but I'll be happy to give you examples if you want to learn more about the different modes of leadership that I'm able to express. And the final thing for this answer is you want to show the impact that you've had. And the impact could be short-term, it could be long-term, depending on the example that you're giving, but you want to give a very clear example of how your leadership made a difference, right? Which is the result piece of STAR, but this is one piece that you really definitely want to focus on, which is how you've made a difference. The fourth thing you want to do is you want to have a tailored response for every industry or every role that you're applying for, because every company is different, every role is different, every industry is different, and you want to have an example that's ready for all of them. And what I recommend a lot of people to do is to have a story jukebox. And what a story jukebox is basically examples that are ready to go and that you're ready to pull out at any moment during an interview. So especially if you're in a Zoom interview, one thing you can do is have a Word document that has a table that outlines all the different examples that you can pull on, so that when the time comes where they're asking you for different types of leadership, you have them all listed out along with examples to back them up. So definitely do the prep work in terms of setting the foundation so that you can tailor your answer accordingly. The fifth and final thing is practice, practice, practice. I've talked about this a million times, probably in all my videos, which is you definitely need to rehearse your answers, whether it's recording yourself, whether it's working with someone else and collecting feedback. You want to practice so that you can express this answer with conviction, so that it's convincing, so that it's believable, and that they can trust that you can actually be a leader in their organization. And that's it. Hope this video was helpful to you. If you like this video, please give it a like, share, subscribe, follow wherever you are. And if you have any thoughts or comments, please let me know in the comments below. What types of leadership are you aware of, and what types of leadership have you expressed in the past? I'd love to learn more, especially when we're talking about leadership, because this is stuff that is close to my heart. Hope you have a good one, and take care.